How about that? Fuck yeah! Thank you guys. Oof.
Well, that's payback from last year, Valtteri.
Indeed. To whom it may concern, fuck you.
Valtteri, no, this is a rebound. Congrats, Toto.
What's going on, everyone? We're back for another We're Racing video. We're talking the midweek update, recap, whatever you want to call it. We're going to drill down into some detail from this race. Of course, Valtteri Bottas come out on top in every sense of the matter during this race. He really put it to his teammate from the start, got a great initial first phase, second phase, and took it into turn one and really just ran away into the distance. There's reports that Lewis had some slight floor damage. We don't expect it to be too major. We think it's the strategy which really cost him in terms of like challenging, but we don't think the team would have allowed Lewis to put too much pressure on Valtteri, considering the shock as it would be for them to be locking out that front two positions and gaining maximum points. So it's going to be quite an interesting dynamic this season, how it's going to be between these two drivers. Valtteri's got a great wind of confidence. Remember last year he dropped it in quali, had a massive mistake, and that really cost him over that weekend. So we can see Valtteri Bottas pretty much dominated this race, and hopefully a few more to come. Lewis Hamilton coming in P2, Max in the final podium spot. So the start was a pretty clean one, apart from, of course, Daniel Ricciardo's big damage he sustained by just going slightly off the track down into the grass. As we can see, coming down into turn one, Max Verstappen looking very punchy there, trying to get up the inside of Sebastian, who's fending him off to great effect. Lewis Hamilton as well, trying to hold off the other Charles Leclerc, who's in the tow. Here we can see Danny Rick, massive damage to the front end of the car there. He's run over his wing as well. We can see the drag down into turn one. We can see them slotting in here. We can see Valtteri taking the racing line, and then we can see Sebastian trying to slot up the inside of Lewis, who Lewis done a pretty good job just to close the door there and to get round turn one. Pretty clean start from the top, boys. You can see Max Verstappen charging in there, like a bit of a lock up there into turn one. We can see here as well Sebastian Vettel forcing his teammate out wide on the exit there of turn one and really compromising him. And this is where Max Verstappen gets a run down on him, past him, and he also comes under pressure just a bit later on from the charging K-Mag. You know what he's like, suck my balls attitude. So he's a tough challenger. Charles managed to keep him behind, and he marched on and plodded around pretty much behind the back of Sebastian for the rest of the race. He was on a bit of a different strategy. Here we can see again the massive damage incurred there to the Renault car of Danny Rick, the home favourite, the Honey Badger. And it was all over, in a few hundred meters, just by going off the track, just dipping down, just bottoming out the front wing, just completely smashing it to smithereens, which was a real nasty thing to see. It is a real low front wing that they run on that Renault, but you don't expect something like that to cause it. So you can see the contrast here. Valtteri Bottas, super jubilant, and Danny Rick's going to be gutted. You can see there where it's bottoming out the front wing, and it's just sparking and just about to collapse under its own weight there. Yes, Sebastian, you fell for their Mercedes bullshit again. When will you learn? When will you learn? We're going to listen in here to some of the team orders from Ferrari. A bit later on in the Grand Prix when there was a fast charge in Charles Leclerc coming up to the back of this moment.
And we go to the end like this, bring the car home, to the end like this. Cool down the tires to have some margin at the front. Tires, save fuel.
So I should stay behind Sebastian? Yes or no?
Yes, and back off to have some margin.
Okay.
We need a bigger gap at the front. We need a bigger gap at the front. And go to sub 7, sub 7.
I'm already going quite slow.
So we need 4 seconds to the car in front. At the moment, 1.5. We need 4 seconds at least.
For what reason?
We'll go for the fastest lap. 4 seconds at the front. Increase the gap. To increase the gap at the front. At the moment, 3 seconds. at least 2 seconds more.
Yeah, but is he slowing down or what? What's happening? I'm so slow, honestly.
We'll try to do the fastest lap, so we are preparing for that.
So the interesting thing here with that team radio, you can see the team really holding back Charles Leclerc when it comes to his racecraft. He could have really got on the back of Sebastian Vettel and probably got past him with some ease because he was on that more optimal strategy at that point in time. Remember, he had a trip across the gravel. He didn't have the cleanest race weekend, but he was right up there. He had solid pace. So was they nursing something on Sebastian's car? That's my theory. Coming into this race, there was talking about the Ferrari having some concerns from testing because of the exhaust problems, the leakage, and I think they might have turned down some of the engine modes. Maybe they've spotted something on Sebastian's car that we don't know about, which could have caused some cause for concern, and got them to turn it down. We'll never know, unfortunately. So moving on here, you can see everyone getting through turn one pretty well, and Danny Rick, the best of all of them for getting through turn one there without a front wing, locking up his front tyres up the inside of turn one. We don't want to be here. We can see Max Verstappen overtaking Sebastian Vettel, really put it to him. We saw the Honda come powering through there and overtaking a Ferrari powered car, which was great to see. Again, we don't know what's wrong with the Ferrari. We don't know why it's off the pace, but a great podium for Max Verstappen. The first podium for the Honda powered car. And a great weekend, it must be said, for the Honda team. It was great to see them with a smile on their face, looking up at the podium for the first time. And great credit for Max Verstappen for making it happen at the same time. Pierre Gasly had a pretty race to forget, I would say. His qualifying really hampered him, but with that pace in that car, you would have expected him to come through the field. Alexander Albon had a pretty solid race. Managed to bring it into the end. He had some good little scraps out there. We'd like to see a lot more from this boy and his teammate as well. He done really well. Danny Kvyat, he managed to get a point, come in 10th place, which was a great feat in itself, I would say, in this, I wouldn't say action-packed, but a hazardous race, shall we say, opener. It's still a bit of the unknown for these teams, what they're running in their packages, etc. So, well done to him. Okay, Mag, bringing it home for the Haas. Unfortunately, Grosjean had an issue. Again, deja vu from the previous year, where a wheel become detached and it became a freewheeler. K-Mag, though, didn't have any problems as such and managed to bring his car home comfortably and bag some solid points. Grosjean, pretty unlucky for him. It's going to dent his confidence. We've seen it in a Netflix series, how he's explained about his personality, how he is insecure. He does need a psychologist, etc. Carlos Sainz, not much he could really do. He was doing pretty all right, and then obviously had engine trouble, and it went proper bang, didn't it? It was on fire, and going to be detailed analysis from the Renault boys what exactly happened there. Good to see Lando Norris. He had quite a poor start, the first stint of the race. That really cost him, and he finished out the points, but nevertheless, he finished his first Grand Prix. That's a milestone in itself, it must be said. The Force India boys, Sergio Perez qualified the best, but the performance for me was for Lance Stroll. He really put in a solid performance this weekend, and give him credit where it's due. He might be a rich boy, but he done a good job. Williams boys, really concerned looking at them. Russell actually lapped Kubica during this race, which was quite alarming. But again, remember, this is the test session for these boys. They're not taking it too seriously right in this minute. The team aren't, the drivers I'm sure are. And so let me know your thoughts and opinions on the teams, on the drivers. Who is your pick-outs, your standouts from the race? We're going to get into some news now. So we're talking Ferrari. What's the theories? Why was their slump in form? Looking at Barcelona, they was looking impeccable. They was looking resurgent. It was looking like the dominating team, and Mercedes even was like quite fearful, I must imagine, and the rest of the teams. So they've been in the real shock of this first race, I would say, is Ferrari, how far they have been away. I don't think there's a fundamental issue with the car. I think there is a good baseline there, but I don't think they really hooked it up. So the first theory we can see here, why they're so slow, they've been so slow through the speed traps. And that's a result of the reliability issues which we've had from testing, looking at Haas and themselves, where they've had them exhaust failures. The team apparently have turned down the wick, as it were, on the engine until they find a good solution. So that could be about 20 kilometers per hour deficit in some of the speed traps. So that could be a result of it. You don't know what kind of readings they're getting from the car throughout the race. The weekend, they might have been concerned and just turned it down slightly. But also it's the balance of the car. They didn't get the right setup. So going into certain corners, they didn't have the right in and out speeds coming into the corners. So that's another theory of them. They've been running quite a lot of wings. So another theory is that at Barcelona, it's a purpose-built track. It's super smooth and super nice on the car. So you get a good reading. It's a good baseline for the teams. However, Albert Park, you saw it on the Mercedes, which was really stiff, how much it's bouncing around, coming into them heavy right-hand braking zones. So Ferrari have said that, not Ferrari have said, but it could be a result of that, where they've had to run so much wing, and it's just you're really struggling to get the balance, get the front end on the car. So that could be a problem there, and getting temperature into the tires at the right place as well. That could be a difficulty that they're facing. It says here. So yeah, the difficulty is setting the car up, just understanding what you've got underneath you. It could be a tire temperature, like track temperature issue, because we're running a slightly different compound with Pirelli this year, so that could hinder them at certain tracks, and then the warmer tracks Ferrari tends to go well, so watch out for that. We expect in Bahrain to see a resurgence if that theory is to be proved correct. So the fifth theory is about Ferrari lacking driver experience, but I don't see that myself really, because Kimi Räikkönen for Charles Leclerc, I think it's not a straight swap, but in terms of talent, what they've got about them, I think it's a pretty good lineup. Sebastian Vettel, he's got 4 world titles. He's no mug. So, yeah, what do you think about Ferrari? Why have they been so slow? And are we going to see them back on top when it comes to the next race in Bahrain? So, Honda, how impressed have you been with Honda? I've been thoroughly impressed myself personally throughout winter testing, and also at this first race. They seem to be competitive. They seem to be pretty bulletproof when it comes to reliability. And I think they're going to be a force, like Mika Häkkinen is also alluding to. They're going to be right up there. They're throwing everything behind this Red Bull, and it's finally made them into pretty much a works team now. And they have, that power plant in the back to really propel them up the field. We've seen the first podium from Max Verstappen this weekend. Do you expect to see any more? I expect to see plenty more, especially at certain street circuits where it suits the balance and setup of the Red Bull car. But don't be fooled. At high-speed tracks, they could be, a real challenger, shall we say? You get my words right. So yeah, it's been a long making Honda. You look at all them years of struggle, the bad shaming when it's coming from McLaren, in particular Fernando Alonso calling it a GP2 engine. It's great to see Honda finally finding, it looks like, a good partnership now with Red Bull, and they can enjoy some of the fruits of their hard labor, as it were. Right, so who do you expect out of Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc to come out on top come the end of the season? Who's going to have the most bag of points? I'm going to put my money, I'm going to say Charles Leclerc, even though he's not going to be favoured. I'm going to back the underdog. What do you think? Is Sebastian Vettel going to manage to accomplish the title? Is he going to run it close? Is he going to be dominant this year and have a have a hazard-free year in terms of no mistakes and etc.? It's going to be interesting. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. So interesting here, Williams still testing pretty much at the Australian Grand Prix. Russell has admitted that they're still in testing mode. They're still understanding their car, trying to understand the package, just pretty much how to bolt it all together properly, and get the best performance out of it. That's quite concerning. We don't expect them to be anywhere near the pace probably until when they come back round to Spain later on in the year, or maybe Azerbaijan, for instance. So interesting here, there's a construction has begun on the Vietnam Grand Prix. It's a bit of a funky layout of a track. Let me know your opinion on that. So they expect to be racing there when? when does it say? So following the departure, they want to add another race back to Asia. We lost Malaysia, of course, which I was very fond of, back of 2018. So they're looking for a new edition for next season, 2020. Is it going to be, is it going to be at the cost of a traditional track like a Silverstone and Monza, which doesn't have a long-term deal with F1 and like the British Grand Prix, quite openly saying that they don't have the money to do it. Like, if basically just pay us to run it and you can have whatever's left over. So interesting. We've had all of these regulation changes on the back of the 2018 Australian Grand Prix, where Ross Brawn and all of the other experts got together and came up with this new package for 2019. However, Romain Grosjean and a few other drivers are saying overtaking is no easier in Australia. And it's not to say that it's going to be not easier at, say, a Silverstone, a Spa, a Monza, for instance, which you would expect it to be even easier to overtake. Fittipaldi is expecting Fernando Alonso to return to F1 within a year. What do you think on that? Do you think you're going to see Fernando Alonso in another race seat once again? He's got the itch to race. He's got the urge, the need for speed. He's going to get bored, you would expect, with his endurance races after a little while, and want that thrill of a quick lap car, you know, in qualifying in particular. So what do you think on that? Are we going to see Fernando Alonso back in an F1 car anytime soon, or if ever at all? So Kubica's comeback in Australia was a remarkable feat in itself, considering he had to have his pretty much arm re-stitched back on. This fella is a warrior. He's a legend of this sport. He spent 8 years away. He's come back. He's finished his first Grand Prix, and I'm sure he's learnt a hell of a lot, because 8 years is a hell of a long time. He's got a lot of catching up to do. He's got to get used to the physicalities of these new cars as well, remember. So I think you're going to see him strengthen throughout the year. It's probably going to take 3 or 4 races, and we're going to see Kubica back to his best. Probably not challenging only his teammate as the only yardstick, shall we say, that he's got, because we expect the car to be quite far away from, you know, the back of the midfield. Who looks at the back of the midfield at the minute? Potentially McLaren could be, Toro Rosso could be. There could be anyone on their day. So it's pretty interesting, that one. Force India, I said it again. Racing Point could be one again. Haas here again with a disappointing race. At least it wasn't both of their cars this year. So Günther Steiner, he doesn't hold back in any of his interviews, and apparently he called Gene Haas himself and said he couldn't believe how they fucked up, etc. They've also come out and said that they're not going to be competing in I think it's the DHL fastest pit stop challenge due to this incident happening again. They just want all 4 wheels bolted on the car, and away she goes, just to try and take a bit of pressure off the boys, and you maybe slow down the pit stop by half a second. Could give them a bit of confidence and what they need to get back. You can imagine the guy who had to tighten that wheel, how he must have felt. But apparently the wheel nut broke. It was on, but when you take it off and put it on, it gets damaged, and the thread is broken. So yeah, he says that Australia doesn't like him. It's definitely a bogey track, considering the last few years. He qualified very well, got away pretty cleanly, and yeah, it was a real shame for Romain Grosjean, that Grand Prix. K-Mag capitalized in his absence, and it's good to see them get some solid points on the board for the first race. So Vettel saying Hamilton was bored after he realised he was the P2 man, and I think he was just playing around. That could have been the case. You could have seen Lewis just plodding around, and knowing that the team backed Valtteri to win that, and they probably had an agreement. Whoever goes into turn 1 gets strategy, and Lewis probably knew he didn't have the tyres to really challenge his teammate with the same equipment for that duration of race. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon for some more F1 videos. Be sure to drop a comment, like, subscribe, and you'll hear from me again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.